All right, Lion Learners, are you ready for a little math? Today we are going to review the nickel, then we are going to do a little nickel and penny addition. How does that sound? Let's start with reviewing our nickel. The nickel book. Let's say our rhyme. Nickel, nickel, thick and fat. You're worth 5 cents. I know that. But wait a minute, what did I forget? The nickel is thick and fat. So we use our thick and fat nickel voice. Ready? Nickel, nickel, thick and fat. You're worth 5 cents. I know that. And here is a picture of the nickel. Who was on the nickel, my friends? Do you remember? He is the 3rd president of the United States, Thomas Jefferson. And here's a painting of Thomas Jefferson. He lived a long time ago. They didn't have cameras back then, so they had to have their pictures painted. And here is one way they show him on the front of the nickel. They show his full face, the front of his face, just like it is in this portrait. This says, "In God we trust," liberty, which means having the freedom to make your own choices. The year is 2013, and S, this would be where it was made, in the mint. Remember, it's not a mint like a breath mint. A mint is a factory where coins are made. And this S means this nickel was made in the mint in San Francisco. All right. This is one way you'll see Thomas Jefferson on the front of the nickel. Here's another way you might see his profile. That means he's looking to the side, just like in this statue. It says the same things on the front. He just is looking a different way. And here is the, oops, never mind, here we go. And here is the 3rd way we see Thomas Jefferson on the nickel. Like on the front, it's another profile, but you can see his coat. Remember, men back then wore their hair differently. He's got a long ponytail. So you can see him in a profile this way. You can see him full face, or you can see him in a profile this way, a little closer up. So what are some of the things you can see on the back of the nickel? Well, it's interesting. The back of the nickel tends to tell a story to me. And the different things you see on the back all have to do with the story of Mr. Jefferson and Lewis and Clark's expedition to go all the way to the Pacific from Charlottesville, Virginia. So this back of the nickel commemorates the Louisiana Purchase. Back then, the United States was not as big as it is now. Mr. Jefferson bought a whole bunch of land called the Louisiana Purchase from France. So here you see a man with a hand from the United States, and this is the United States coat, shaking hands with a man from France. He has the eagle on his coat to show he is from France. There is a peace pipe and an axe. United States of America, e pluribus unum, 5 cents. So this back of the nickel tells us about the Louisiana Purchase, when the United States bought Louisiana from France. After he did that, Thomas Jefferson thought, I want to see what is all the way to the west. If we go across the Louisiana Purchase and all the way to the Pacific Ocean, what will we see? So he got his 2 friends, Mr. Lewis and Mr. Clark, to sign up to make an expedition. That's a long trip across the United States to see the Pacific Ocean. And they left from Charlottesville, Virginia, where this house is. This is the house where Thomas Jefferson lived. It is called Monticello. Here's a real picture of Monticello. It's a really unusual house, and Thomas Jefferson designed it himself. So we have Monticello on the back, Thomas Jefferson's house. On the way across the country, Lewis and Clark saw all sorts of new animals. One of the new animals they saw was the buffalo, or the bison. That's why we have the buffalo on the back of some of our nickels to show us some of the new animals Lewis and Clark saw on their way across the country. How did Lewis and Clark make it across the country? It was a long time ago. There weren't any highways. They couldn't drive in a car. There weren't any roads. They had to walk. They had to ride horses, or sometimes they took this type of boat, a long, low boat, and they would take it down the rivers. They went down the Missouri River. They went on lots of rivers, and when they couldn't take their boat down a river, sometimes they had to carry it across the land. So this says Lewis and Clark, and it shows all his men rowing their boat on the river. But Lewis and Clark also had to have a guide. They chose a Native American girl named Sacagawea, and she showed them the way to go with their boat, with their horses, and when they were walking. Then, when they got to the Pacific Ocean, they finally saw it, and they wrote in their journal, "Ocean in view." Oh, the joy. They were so happy to see the Pacific Ocean. And this shows the Pacific Ocean the way Lewis and Clark might have seen it. And here is a picture of the real Pacific Ocean. See how it looks sort of the same? They went all the way across the country to the Pacific Ocean. Then they had to turn around and come all the way back to report to Mr. Jefferson at Monticello. So that is why we have all these images showing things from when Mr. Jefferson was president and Lewis and Clark went across the country for the first time on the back of the nickel. But let's get back to how much is the nickel worth? Why don't we say our nickel rhyme one more time? Nickel, nickel, thick and fat, you're worth 5 cents. I know that. Okay, are you ready to do a little math with your nickel? Let's get set.